You when you hear me?
It's fine, yeah.
I'm just gonna rejoin though. Sorry.
It's okay.
He just started a series. The story is sabbatical. Oh. 10 times a day I'm getting a text. Is it really a nice bakery? Yes, it is. Is it really a yes, there is. Oh, I forget. It's like a murder series.
Oh, is it the public and stuff?
It might be.
Jonathan back in.
Because there is a Pacific Lake to show up in one of those.
I'll give him another minute. He said he was gonna rejoin.
Yeah, that part about the floodplain, I think, like that's true. It's nice to put a face with it.
Let's see if I have my right. We switch around sometimes.
Yeah, but they notice if you, I don't think they notice
Yeah,
if
there it
we
is.
switch. We switch without even that one might get trouble.
All right, let's get going here. It's just after 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the applicants, board members, staff, members of the public. This is the August 6th, 2024 meeting of the City of Bangor's Planning Board. My name is Reese Perkins, Chairman of the board. I'll just make some introductions, and everyone can just raise a hand when I say your name so that people can recognize who you are. So for board members, this evening to my left, Michael Bazinet, Don Mahar, Vice Chair Ted Brush. By the way, thanks to Vice Chair for subbing for me last meeting. Welcome. And Tricia Hayes, and alternate member Janet Jonas. And then on Zoom is Jonathan Boucher. Hey, Jonathan. And member Jonas is filling in for an open seat on the board that we have at the moment. So she will be voting in and out as every other member this evening. Board members are volunteers from the Bangor community and are here to help us out. We sure appreciate that. City staff members in attendance this evening are Planning Officer Anya Collette and Assistant Solicitor Grace Innes and Planning Analyst Brian Scannell. We thank them also as well for this help for this meeting. The Planning Board has multiple roles. We first review amendments for the Land Development Code, which typically include either changes to zoning districts or changes to text within the code. Our review of these amendments includes adherence to the comprehensive plan, as well as considering any applicable concerns from the public. Our vote on these items is typically in recommendation form because it then goes to the City Council, so it's a recommendation of ought to pass or ought not to pass. The City Council makes the final decision on zoning and land development changes. We do have 2 items on the agenda that are under zone change amendments this evening. Second, we serve as the regulatory authority for land development permits. That's commonly known as site plan review. Site plans are reviewed to ensure compliance with city code. As to parking, driveways, stormwater management, lighting, landscaping, buffering, building location, environmental impact, shoreline zoning, etc., as may be applicable. We also ensure that the plan meets the dimensional requirements for the project zoning district. State statute also outlines the requirements for subdivision review, and the city has additional standards as to roadway and utility specifications. Subdivision is primarily defined as a development with 3 or more lots or dwelling units. The board ultimately endorses a plan that will go to the Registry of Deeds if the plan is approved. The first 2 items on our agenda this evening fall into site plan review category. For more information on our codes and standards, you can find the land development code on the city's website. We will call the applicants in the order that they appear on the agenda. When the applicant is asked to present their project or proposal, they or their representative should come to the podium and provide a brief introduction to their application. Once that presentation has been made, the applicant should stay at the podium while we consider any questions from the staff or from board members. At that time, the applicant can be seated and we'll open the floor to public comments. If there are any public comments, we ask that the person come to the podium, introduce themselves, state where they're from, and indicate if they are for or against the proposal. Either way, it is helpful if you present your thoughts based upon city code and/or the comprehensive plan, as these are the primary documents that the board uses to make our decisions. We have I was going to say we have a full schedule this evening, but we actually have one item that's postponed, so it's not really that full. We do encourage you to keep your comments brief nonetheless. And if somebody is on Zoom, other than Jonathan, if they use the raised hand function, we will hand them in so that they can also speak during the public comment period. All comments and discussions should remain respectful and considerate of all others. The board will then deliberate on the proposal and approve or deny a project and may work with the applicant if there are compliance issues that need to be addressed. The board may continue the application to a future meeting to allow time for modifications to the plan. Once a project you are interested in has been reviewed, feel free to leave the meeting, but please be respectfully quiet so as not to disturb other project reviews. All projects, once approved by the board, must apply for construction permits with the code office. All approved projects need to be started within 1 year of our decision and completed within 2 years, although extensions are allowed through the code enforcement office. We thank all applicants for taking time to present their project for our review. This process is important for the city's development and the direction of our future. With all that said, we get to the agenda, and the first item on the agenda is new business land development permits. There are two of those. The first one is an application for major site development and conditional use for a proposed 1,540 square foot drive-through restaurant with associated parking at property located on Haskell Road at map lot R70031 in the general commercial and service district. The applicant and owner is Brennan Development LLC. Staff has requested that we postpone this item. There are some issues with traffic and site location, which have been brought forward and will require more time to address. They have asked for postponement of this item to the next planning board meeting.
Actually, September 6th.
Okay, thank you. So until September 6th.
I'm sorry, I keep saying 6th, the 3rd.
Yeah, right, it's 6 weeks, right?
Yes.
The 3rd, September 3rd. The meeting would be on September 3rd, and we would postpone this to. Does the board have any discussion or questions on this? I would look for a motion to postpone this item to this September 3rd meeting. So moved. Thank you. Do I have a second? Member Bazinet. A roll call vote. 4 votes are needed for passage. Member Bazinet? Yes. Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Mara?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we postpone that item until September 3rd. The next item on the agenda is an application for a minor site development and minor subdivision for proposed construction of 2 duplexes and a shared driveway at property located at 420 and 424 Hancock Street, map lot 055-136 and 055-136A in the Urban Residence District 2. The applicant is Broman Builders. The owners are Broman Builders Incorporated and Downey's Main Property Management LLC. Staff has indicated the completeness of this application and that it is ready for board review. Fees are documented and paid. The applicant's standing is confirmed. Does the board have any concerns about these issues? Seeing none, are there any concerns of conflict of interest? Seeing none, can I get a motion, and you find this in your packet under the procedural background? We would need a motion to accept that this application is complete and ready for further review and that was excluding underbrush.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board finds the application was deemed complete on August 6, 2024. The applicant paid all applicable fees per Exhibit 3, and the proposed project is a minor site development and minor subdivision.
Excellent, thank you. Do I have a second on that? Member Basnet, thank you. So roll call vote on that one. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Boucher?
Yes.
Rush?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Jonas?
Yes.
Mar?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the application is ready for review. And so the applicant should now come to the podium and present us. Brief introduction is fine, and we've got all your information, I think, in the packet. And then we can ask you questions if we need to.
Okay, my name is Malcolm here, I'm a licensed land surveyor, I'm representing Mike Roman Builders, and on the subject of Hancock Street. We have two duplexes going in, you've got all the specs, and we must have a copy.
We have that, and that is also on the screen, which Brian is able to put up for us, so it can be viewed that way as well.
And what we've done is gone through all of the different items and dealt with the planning people, been very helpful. And answered all the questions, and no, we had to do any reviews or anything. So in each of the things, all the notes on there reflect that. And to the point where they're happy with the application. Biggest thing is that we two duplexes, the drainage is set up, so there's a run down into the grate, the manhole cover there on the side of the road, as per the engineers. Water company people have been there and reviewed what we're doing there, and they're happy with it. I think that's written down in a spec. So I guess if any questions you may have, I've got a lot of info here, but
Yes, so if you would, and we'll get to questions in just a moment, maybe describe the property now, as it is now.
okay, what, the property is partly excavated and set up for, one foundation is poured on the right-hand lot. The other one is not laid out yet or anything. What we have is groundwork there that all needs to be done to finish as we're doing it.
Okay.
There's some contour lines on the drawing that show how it'll be shaped. And it's obvious in the back, we've got to do some work as that gets filled in. I know there's some people here, maybe neighbors there. So we'll have to do a little something there, just normal site view, a site situation for repair. Something more solid in the back.
And that's currently 2 lots?
It was 2 lots made back into one. Now it's currently, I provided a deed which will be recorded tomorrow. But that deed is in, we've got it to look at. It's signed and everything's done except for make it 1 lot now.
I'll fill in a little bit for you, but hang tight. I think the board may understand this, but just as an awareness, the overall concept here is this was 2 lots. There's 2 units with 2 buildings with 2 units each, but in order for them to have a shared driveway, they need to combine the lots together. So that's what he gave on this evening, is a change of deed to go from 2 lots to 1 lot. What happens in that process is they then are doing 4 units instead of 2 units on 2 separate lots. They're doing 4 units now on 1 lot, which drives this whole standards review that we're doing this evening. Okay. Everybody good with that? Makes sense? Does the board have any other questions of this gentleman right at the moment regarding the project? Okay. Let's hang with us here for a second. Staff comments beyond what we've heard so far?
I just wanted to point out the public comment we received just before the meeting from
Thank you.
the person across the road at 426 Hancock Street. They were concerned about drainage onto their driveway and the impact from this development across the street. And I guess they had conversations with engineering before about the possibility of putting in a catch basin somewhere in the vicinity. I haven't had time, obviously, this was right before the meeting, to talk to engineering about it, but I will say that engineering and stormwater did sign off on these plans and the grading of the plans. And if there are additional needs as far as catch basins across the street, that's certainly something engineering would be responsible for doing,
Right.
so,
Outside of a planning board review.
yeah,
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
And also on the deed, we still do, I would recommend just still making the condition that code enforcement receive evidence of recording. I'm sure they will, but it's just good to have it in the records.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's in our standards listing that we have this evening. Members of the board all good with understanding that? So you were given this when you came in, and that's what Anya was referring to. And it sounds like also, you're a surveyor, right? So you commented as well, the drainage is directed towards a manhole for this lot.
Right, and the engineer reviewed that and agreed that that was acceptable. What I've done is taken the drainage, shaped it a bit, brought it in so it will all go to the corner and go into that manhole.
That manhole,
And that's what the engineer okayed.
right?
That way it won't go across the road now.
And this neighbor has had some experience with some problems with water, but it may be outside of his property anyway, it sounds like. And engineering would need to respond, which, Anya says you're gonna get hold of engineering
Yeah, I
to
will.
discuss
This may
that.
be an update which covered it. In other words, before this, there may have been plenty of problems coming across.
Sure,
This controlled it.
right, yeah, and that may answer the problem right there. I don't know, we'd have to have engineering discuss that or answer that question for us. Thank you. So that's it for staff comments at this point. Yeah, I think you could sit down for now. You may have to come back up, but for now, we can sit down and relax, and we'll go to public comments. I'm looking at the screen, which I don't know if that means I'm actually looking at you, Jonathan, looking away from you, but just make sure if you have any questions or comments that you
Yeah, I'll raise a hand or something like that,
yeah.
or I'll speak up. Yep.
scream loudly or whatever you need to get busted in here, okay? So I think we'll go to public comments, and I will open up the public comments, and you've heard my introduction, and go from there. Please introduce yourself and what your stance is on the project, and that sort of thing.
My name is Barbara Carpenter. I'm the homeowner of 14 Pearl Street, which is the property in the rear of where the duplex is going to be built. If you're familiar with it, if you are standing on Hancock Street and you see where they're going to build two duplexes, my house is a kind of a hill, and my house is that house right there. And at this point, I'm not here to be against what they're doing, not against them building a duplex at all. I just have concerns when it comes to my property that I want to address. I did contact the code enforcement department a couple of times and was advised that at that time that there was only one code enforcement officer at the time, and requested contact with him, and unfortunately I never heard back from him. I left 2 messages. Here's why I'm here. On the property down to the left, my understanding is that the original owner of that property, his name is Spalding, had planted what was called Japanese knotweed. It is still there, and it is on now growing into my property. And I've had to spend several $100s over the past couple of years to have it taken down. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's right up to more than doghouse is. It's my doghouse that I have to open that leads down into my cellar. It is right up to that door. Obviously, I'm concerned because it's continuing to grow. My understanding, and I'm not an expert on it, it's Google information, that it's going to continue to grow and it's going to continue to spread. And it has spread in my yard, and it's costing me several $700 a year to have it knocked down. The gentleman that I pay happens to be my next door neighbor, Stan. And he's here because he's my next door neighbor, and I think he shares some concerns about that spreading, is going to continue to spread right up the street. So my question is, has that been looked at by the company that is looking to build, that this is on that property that you now own? Can it be looked at? Can it be eradicated? Can my property be treated so that it's no longer a problem? That's one. The other problem that I'm concerned with is my home is filled. My whole backyard is filled. My uncle and grandfather built the home that I live in. They also built the home across the street. So my concern is when they came in and they knocked all that back down, they took all the trees, boulders, rocks, and everything, cleaned it right up. When I got a call from my husband, who was like, they're working on that property and they just took down all the trees, they just took down everything. And when I got home, when I went out to the back property and I faced Hancock Street where they're building, I was standing literally on a ledge with at least a 20 to a 25-foot drop. And if I fall off it, it's gonna be several feet and I'm literally gonna fall. It has since just grown. Nothing's been done to it. Yet the property to the right, the house to the right, that they tore down all of that stuff, they hauled in a lot of boulders and have reinforced that part. But my property has had nothing done. I can't put my dog out because I'm afraid she's gonna see a squirrel and go. I can't have friends in my backyard with their little kids because I'm afraid. Am I responsible to put a fence in? Are they responsible to fill that, brace it? I'm concerned that with all the rain and the storms that we're having, that is that gonna wash out? I mean, we're joking about it, I'm joking about it, that, I might have waterfront property in the next few years if that goes sliding down the hill. So, I'm very concerned about it. I'll be honest with you, my husband passed away last November. It's just me now, it's just my income. So I'm obviously concerned, and I'm also concerned because the sale of my home is my retirement. I can't imagine anyone would want that property the way it looks like it. I would. So I'm just looking to see, were there studies done to determine what happens if we take all this down to the property? Is it going to be looked at? Is it going to be filled in? I think that pretty much covers how I feel. I don't understand if Chris have any concerns. I know you're right next door to me, but that's where I'm coming from at this point. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Flow down there is.
You're welcome to speak, just come up to the podium so they can hear on Zoom.
And with just being your support. I'm Barb's neighbor, Chris. I just lived the house over. We've been there for 30 years. Last name? Moons.
Thank you.
And I know I used to walk to work and I cut through past her house and down the path. It's too dangerous to cross that street. The cars just fly through. Now you're putting 2 duplexes there. It's a blind corner. What's going to happen when people are coming and going? And it does flood there because certain days when it rains too hard, you go right when you get to the hospital, not left, because we can see it out the window. So that's a concern. the flooding, the traffic, the speed of the traffic. So, and of course, her house sliding off the ledge. So,
They're funny, but I gotta.
I mean, if you stand there and look at it, it's shocking. When people come to the hospital, I'm like, oh my gosh, your neighbor's house, it's like right on the edge. It is shocking, you just need to see it.
I've had many people that I work with, because we both work at the hospital, and Joey is, I only live 2 blocks away, so, you know, when they come up Hancock Street to go to the hospital, and they saw that all down, they were coming into my office and saying, oh my God, Barb, what's going on? Your house is on this cliff. So,
Anyone ever walks at night, if they cut through her backyard, they're going down. It's, you can't see, it's pitch black, and it's dangerous, but that's it. I'm just here to support you.
thank you.
You're right.
But I've thought about
Thank
the
you.
traffic concerns.
Yeah. I kind of caution you, I'd rather if you not talk when you're not coming out to the
I'm
podium,
sorry.
because we're trying to sort of zoom this and keep
Yep.
control of what we end up having to record all these meetings and so forth. You guys as a whole all set, and, okay, on Zoom, do we have anybody else? Brian, you can tell of?
We're all set.
Okay, so, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there. Please come on up.
Way back here.
Yep,
Hello, I'm Candace Balding, and I own the property across the street from Frank's. And my family has owned it since the early 60s. We've seen, as you folks have too, many changes on Hancock Street. When my father expanded that house, it was pretty much a dead-end street. And then a few years later, boom. But anyway, he has owned it a long time. We've enjoyed it. We love it. They're true on their concerns. I hadn't really given them thoughts because I'm thinking on my own. The Carpenters are on the ledge. It was always, I never could see their house from my house. Because it was all trees and everything like that. Of course, my concern, certainly, and I'm sure he's right, is already addressed. I'm very concerned about water coming up down from the home, from the property. Just because we're used to that, it was all vegetation over there. It was, you guys know where it is, right? That old tree,
Yes, we do.
it's an eyesore that stood out there, and then it's been an eyesore for many, many years since, so. Anyway, it's falling through woodland owners, whatever they are, I don't remember. But back to what's going on, we're concerned about, they're concerned about that, we're concerned about the water going to our yard, we're concerned about the traffic, coming out. When they closed off Pearl Street and made it short, they had reasons to do that because they went the emergency route to the hospital and they decided to expand the road. They also closed it because houses came down Pearl Street, or truck came down Pearl Street, ran into my dad's house. And there was a bedroom. Yeah, so they decided to make that pretty much closed off, which was, worked out good. Just the minimal traffic, they had been coming in and out. But traffic is increased. It's not slow, and it's not slow. And the flooding in that corner there, it comes right into our basement. That actually, for whatever reason, and maybe it had to do with the expansion to the road, and maybe it had to do with the rerouting of water that actually knocked off part of our porch. But it rerouted the water when they made that big change in the road on the street. But I didn't come to complain. So anyway, what was I saying? I'll get it. So we're just concerned about the traffic on that road, the visibility, and that water flooding. Mostly, we just don't want the water to come to our house and run it down any further. We want to go on record to make sure the rights know, and maybe folks know, that this is our concern. I'm sorry, but anyway, the Roman brothers know.
okay.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I am going to close the public comment at this point, since there is no one else wanting to discuss this. I would give the applicant a chance to sort of respond on those issues. You don't have to. I will say some of the things that get brought up are somewhat outside of what we do in this meeting. I share your concern with knotweed, trust me, I've been knotweed all over my
I saw your
backyard.
face when I mentioned
I
it.
mean, and it is brutal down. But I also suspect these folks don't like it either, don't want it in their yard either, or this yard. And so I suspect that that's probably a common concern. And don't let me speak for you, but I just want to say, that's generally not something that we look at. We do look at landscaping in a general sense. And actually, there was some discussion made about trees or lack of trees. And one of the things that happens in this process is the city requires a certain buffer to be installed. So these folks have put into their drawings some trees and some landscaping in order to kind of provide that sort of thing. So that's what the city does to help with that. Traffic is a concern we have in almost every project that we look at, because everybody hates traffic everywhere now. It's just going to be a real big problem. It can't stop development, but we need to be concerned with how to do it and how it happens. And so the city has standards on the size of their driveway and the way it meets the street and that sort of thing, so that we do the best job we can to make sure things are safe. All that being said, again, I don't want to speak for you folks, but if you want to reply to any of those concerns, I'm hearing 4 different kinds of concerns here. One is a little bit landscaping, the water drainage was spoken of, the traffic concerns. I heard the issue with the drop-off from your property, I think, to this property is what you're saying. And I'm not sure what we can do to address it, but I certainly want to discuss it. And so why don't you come on up and see what you can do about that.
My name is Mike White from Roman Builders and Downers Main Property Management. The bank that was there, that was originally there when we first bought the property, has not been changed very much at all. It's the same retainage that was there before. There was a very large elm tree that actually fell on the building that we had there originally. We do have if these folks get a chance to look at the plan, we do have a buffer in place to help take care of some of that stuff. But the steep bank is there, it's always been there. And anybody walks off there, yeah, you're gonna fall, there's no question, and you're gonna come down. But that's nothing we created. It's something that we're just addressing through the town's requirements. As far as water is concerned, we've addressed the water even during the current construction. It did go into the home, some of the worst weather we've had, and I appreciate this lady mentioning the rain that we've had an extreme amount of rain in the last year. That's been beyond most of what any of us have seen. And every time I went to the property, it went into the storm drain. And we're going to alter that with this new plan to address that as well, so that it all filters into that drain. So it shouldn't even go across the road, it shouldn't be an issue there at all. This other lady mentioned too that there's some vegetation that she doesn't like. Well, vegetation will hold the ground, especially large growing vegetation is a lot like, this particular product is a lot like bamboo. It grows a lot, it grows fast, and it creates a root base that will retain the land. So whether I like the species or not, it does its job. It does an extreme job, and I'm assuming maybe that's why the last person may have planted it. I know nothing about that. But it was designed to be a very simple project. It was designed to be a project that didn't need planning board approval. Matter of fact, I have a permit already that I pulled without planning board approval, but then when we come to the traffic, like you mentioned, I brought that up at one of the meetings here with the town, and the highway department said that that was not the case, that I assumed that that's why they moved Pearl Street, because it was a dangerous corner, hard to see. And we did level some of that vegetation on the left-hand side with a verbal contact with the hospital that owns the land. We leveled that out to make sure you could see better. And then, of course, which is why we're here, we moved the driveway over further, so you have a lot more site visibility on the left-hand side when you pull out, which can only be a help. Unfortunately, instead of having 2 separate driveways, it made for a steeper driveway, made for an uncomfortable driveway, made for a dangerous driveway, and then again, you're still coming out very close to where Pearl Street was, or at least half of Pearl Street, so that was a dangerous intersection, so we tried to address that as well by moving the driveway over maybe 60 or 70 more feet. away from that corner so that when you're in and out will be a lot safer for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Do I have an opportunity?
No, this is the way it works. Close the public comment, and we always give the applicant a chance for rebuttal to any of those, to basically answer your questions.
So my next step would be an attorney.
That's not my business
No,
to
no,
tell
no,
you.
I understand.
I'm always one who prefers that people talk.
Well, I'm trying to, but
And
it's.
so, but it's not to be done here in this meeting. And so, our job is to make sure that this project is done according to city standards, codes, and so forth.
Can I
And
ask a simple question?
you're asking them now. Well, if you're gonna ask more questions, come on up to the podium and you can ask a simple question. Yes, I'll give you one. And then we'll see where we go from there.
I did the right thing by contacting the code enforcement. I never got a call back twice.
I heard you say that, so is that your question?
I'd like to know what my next route is. Are you basically, you're shutting this down? It is what it is?
But I'm just running a meeting, I'm not shutting anything down. This process goes on and on and on. These folks, they have to do things according to city standards and codes. And our purpose tonight is to review their project, and then that allows them to begin. They still have to keep within the city codes and standards. If there's something beyond that that you need addressed, then you would have to find another way to address it.
So the fact that they have vegetation on their property that's impeding my property,
It's not really a planning board issue.
okay, that's what I'm trying to get. So this was just an opportunity to say what I said, say what they say now. It's gonna be, I have to take it further some other way.
Well, as I explained at the beginning,
Okay.
if you bring concerns to us that are based on codes and standards of the city that you have concerns with, then we can try and address that during this meeting. But if there's something outside of that, that's not our place to do.
All right, no, I understand, I just want to make sure I have a full understanding since
Yeah.
I didn't get anywhere with code enforcement,
Sure.
so.
No, as I said, communication is good.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you. Before we go to motions on standards, do board members have any other issues or any of these issues that they want to bring up and discuss further? Member Bassman?
One quick question. On whose property is the embankment?
Was a combination,
Come on up to the podium if you would answer the question.
combination of some of ours, and then the upper part of it, as it comes down, is on her property.
So the first cut is on the adjacent
On this
property.
one. Right, on ours, on this project we're doing.
The first cut is on your
Hers
property.
is farther up, or some of that's been cut down.
Are you planning on riprapping that or stabilizing it?
Well, there's one section you mentioned that we have in here requiring landscaping and buffers and trees and shrubs and stuff, and then in order to do that, we're gonna have to put in a neat little bit of landscaping with some trees and things that'll support the ground. That's what we got already in here.
So you're not gonna use any,
It's up to the client on any kind of stone or anything that would help the area there, but I mean, it would be on his property.
so if you were to stabilize it with riprap, you would be on the adjacent property doing that? Or you'd be on your property?
Beyond this property. But you would have, as you went farther up, you have the slope starting to come down, and then it's into ours.
So it pitches this way,
Yeah, it pitches towards the road, pitches down behind us.
towards State Street.
Yeah, towards Hancock Street.
Hancock Street, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we zoom that?
Yeah.
I have pictures that tell
We have that same blueprint, but I thought it might be helpful.
Oh, yeah, I'm good now. I've got the lay of the land. So my only outstanding question is, I don't know who's going to answer it, is are they planning on doing any sort of ground stabilization outside of traditional tree plantings and that type of thing? That's That's my final question.
If I may, it is in the plan, that's what we're planning on doing, is retaining that piece. Again, as it goes up the hill, that hasn't changed a bit, it's the same it was well before I came into the picture. But as we're changing stuff down towards the flat where we are, that's where we're putting in the stabilization. Thank you.
The problem I have is that it's not the same. The problem I have is that when they came in and they did that, they cut so deep into it that I now have a ridge on the top of my property that goes like this. It was not like that before. It was gradual down. Now it's like this. And it's hard to see now because it's so overgrown again. That's the concern that I have, is that it was not like that until they came in, just severely cut.
Stay up for a second. I'm sort of against getting into a back and forth brawl here, which I feel like we're making.
And I know, that's-
But anyway, before we go too much further with this, who is they that you were just speaking of?
The owners of the property who came in and did all the digging and, well, whoever they hired to do it. I mean, what was it, a backhoe or what piece of machinery, a backhoe? They just came in and yes, there was a huge tree that fell over, but they didn't just go to the tree, they went all the way around to the other end. And if you zoom and you look at the pictures, you'll see that the property to the right, that beautiful house to the right next door, they went in and they hauled in boulders and completely reinforced that all. My question is, now I have the steep pitch that was not as steep as before they came in, and it's just been allowed to sit there and grow. And everything that was there that, to me, was stabilizing that property has now been ripped up. So with all the rain and everything that we're getting now, I'm concerned with the fill that I have, that it's gonna start eroding, and all that water has to go somewhere. It's gonna go right down into their property. She's concerned because she's afraid it's gonna go over to Hancock Street. So, and the Japanese knotweed, again, was not planted on my property, it was planted on theirs. And that's costing you money every year to take care of.
Thank you. One more chance? It seems,
Again, I don't want to get in a match either, but as I mentioned before, we have not, she made a statement that we did a ridge on her property, we haven't touched her property, or done anything to her property. And again, she mentioned several times that she's worried about erosion, but that she mentioned several times again, now 4 times, that there's all kinds of vegetation growing, so I'm a little confused, which is it? I mean, are we having erosion, or are we having vegetation? Because once you have extra vegetation, the erosion does not continue. Again, very confused with the complaint of what we've done to affect any properties around us, and just like you mentioned, we put a retaining wall, we figured we needed a retaining wall, and we only addressed right to the bottom part of the ledge that was already there, and the riprap and retainage that was already there, we did not exceed beyond that, so, and furthermore, we're putting in more buffers per town's requirements that we weren't planning on doing, but we are now, to help take care of anybody's needs, mainly the towns or the city, and so, again, I can't see that this is any effect on any property around us, across the road, left, right, or above us. Thank you. Thank you.
yes.
May I ask
Member
just
Jones,
a quick
please.
question regarding the
Please.
buffer zone? Typically, when we review site plans like this, we have a list of species and we compare them against the ones that we feel are non-invasive. Is that something that will be provided to us at some point during this process, or does it even not apply in this case?
So technically, the plant list isn't a requirement. We ask for it just so we can make sure of that, but they did provide a note on the plan that native species would be used and no invasive species.
Okay, thanks.
So,
I was trying to read it, but
yeah.
it's
I did just want to, it's more of a PSA than anything, but the Pennsylvania State University Extension is known to be one of the best resources for knotweed eradication. So I just wanted to put that out there for informational purposes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board questions before we go to standards? All right, let's get on to the standards. I am going to be looking for a motion on part one, the requirements of articles 2 through 12. If I could have a motion on item 1. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 10, and 15, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code, Section 165-33's requirements regarding filling, grading, and earth-moving activities, and Section 165-33.1's requirements regarding erosion and sediment control best practices.
Do I have a second on this? Second. Thank you. And a roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Marhart?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. One is accepted. Motion on item 2. Member Marhart?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and 6, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-65 regarding treating each principal building as a separate lot, and Section 165-68 requiring minimum lot frontage of 50 feet.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Member Jonas, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Marhart?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 2 is accepted unanimously. Item 3, can I have a motion on item 3?
Chair?
Member Jonas?
I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 6, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-72 requiring adequate parking spaces, Section 165-73 regarding parking area location, setbacks and screening, and Section 165-74 regarding minimum design standards for surface parking and parking lot design.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Member Brush, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Marhart?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Sorry.
Item 3 is accepted. Item 4, motion on item 4, please. Member Hayes?
I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 10, and 13, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-79 and 80 requiring adequate connection to necessary utilities, including public water and sewer when possible.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Member Marhart, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Marhart?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 4 is passed. Item 5, can I have a motion on item 5?
Mr. Chair? Yes, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 12, the applicant satisfied the Land Development Code Section 165-82 requiring adequate fire protection.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item?
Second.
Member Brush, thank you. And a roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Marhart?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 5 is passage. Item 6, can I have a motion on item 6? Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2, the applicant satisfied the Land Development Code, Section 165-83, requiring adequate electrical services.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item? Member Bazinet, thank you. A roll call vote on item 6. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher? Yes. And the chair votes yes. Could I ask the applicant a question here, just along with that, item 6? I meant to ask it earlier, and I'm sorry. I didn't see anywhere on the drawing where it showed the main electrical connection, or where the electrical,
The telephone pole is shown,
it does show a pole
right, and that's where the act is coming in from there, it comes to the two buildings.
underground. Thank you. Okay, that's kind of what I was looking for. Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion on item 7? Member Maher?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board finds that based on exhibits 2, 10, and 15, the applicant satisfied the Land Development Code section 165-84 requiring provisions for surface water and storm drainage.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item? Member Jonas, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 7 also has unanimous passage. That is all. Part 1 is passed unanimously. Part 2, project meets the district site development standards under Article 19. Can I have a motion on that item?
Chair.
Member Jonas?
I move the board finds that based on exhibits 2 and 6, the applicant satisfied section 165-135 of the Land Development Code regarding height limits, floor area ratio, impervious surface ratio, and buffer yards, and section 165-136 regarding the provision of egress doors facing the front yard.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that? Member Maher, thank you. And roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Part 2 has unanimous passage. Part 3, project meets requirements of 165-89 urban residence 2. That's a URD 2 district. Can I have a motion on that item? Member Rush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on the findings made in parts 1 and 2 of section 4 of this document, the project meets the requirements of section 165-89B for uses within the urban residence 2 district, URD 2.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that? Member Hayes, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Unanimous passage on part 3. Part 4, project meets the requirements of section 165-126, minor subdivision. Can I have a motion on that item, part 4? Member Maher?
Yes, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and based on the findings made in parts 1 through 3 of Section 4 of this document, the project meets the requirements of Article 165-126F for minor subdivision regarding meeting state of Maine subdivision guidelines, conforming to existing zoning regulations, abutting an existing improved public street, having side lot lines at right angles, and completeness of the information provided in the subdivision plat.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Member Rush, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Unanimous passage on part 4. Part 5, project meets requirements of 165-114 land development approval standards. There are 5 items on there. Can I have a motion on item 1? Member Rush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on the findings made in part 4 of section 4 of this document, the applicant satisfied the requirements of Land Development Code section 165 114A regarding subdivisions.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item? Second, Member Hayes, thank you. Roll call vote, Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, passes on item 1 unanimously. Item 2, do I have a motion on item 2? Member Hayes?
I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2, 6, and 10, the applicant satisfied the requirements of Land Development Code Section 165-114B through C regarding the proposed parking and loading layout and the proposed access drives from the site to any public right-of-way being arranged in a reasonable and safe configuration.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that? Member Jonas, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
Member Chair? Member Chair. The Chair also votes yes. That is unanimous on number 2. Number 3, I have a motion on number 3. Member Jonas?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 15, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114D's requirements for preventing adverse effects from stormwater runoff and ensuring adequate capacity of stormwater collection systems to handle runoff from the development street have adequate capacity to carry the flow without significant negative effects.
Almost seems like there should be an end in there, doesn't it?
Or something's, yeah.
Probably after 3.
Yeah, anyway, we can let that work the way it is. Do I have a second on that? Second. Member Maher, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 4, I have a motion on item 4. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 6, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114F's requirements for landscaping, tree preservation, and species type.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item? Second, Member Maher. Thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Item 4 has passage. Item 5, can I have a motion on item 5? Member Maher?
Yes, I move that the board finds that based on Exhibits 2 and 6, the applicant satisfied Land Development Code Section 165-114G's requirements for building location and setbacks.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that item? Member Hayes, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Yes. And the chair votes yes. Part 5 has all passed unanimously. That is part 5, 1 through 5. And so to the decision. Could I have a motion on the decision? Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that the project meets the requirements for a land development permit for a minor site development and minor subdivision. Therefore, the board grants the land development permit for this proposed project with the condition that the evidence of a deed combining map lot 055-136 and 055-136A is accepted by the Code Enforcement Division prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Jonas, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, unanimous passage of this land development code. So the next steps, I believe, would be the code enforcement office.
Yes, that's correct, and we do need both of those plans for signing tonight. So you can just put them on your table.
Yeah.
You want 2 copies?
Yes, yeah. You can put it back. Sorry.
On the table is fine. Yeah, because we'll sign them after the meeting. You'll have to have them for the next day or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You folks don't need to stay anymore. I mean, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. We're just trying to make
And work for you now.
Thank you. Okay, so that gets us through the land development permit stuff this evening.
Thank you very much.
And you're welcome. And so on to code amendments, which we have 2 items. And so the first item is to amend the land development code by correcting clerical errors in the dimensional controls and attachment 3, Schedule B. I'm just going to go to planning officer Colette, because I think she can probably explain what's happening here.
Yeah. So this is mainly just a clerical fix to the code. The first item is for the SMPS and GCNS zones. When the ordinance for adding multifamily and mixed commercial residential was adopted last spring, there were some changes made to the dimensional table, and then shortly after that, another ordinance was adopted that altered the same dimensional table. And E-code, there was like a lag with E-code, our code software that kind of had something to do with that. And so things got overwritten. And so this is just to fix that. And then for the co-living dormitories ordinance, you all did review the dimensional table when that came forward, but it was left off of the ordinance when it went to city council for adoption. So this would just be adding those into the dimensional table officially.
So we did it right, the city council did it wrong.
Yeah, but it wasn't their fault, so.
I like that on the record.
I think it says more to how detailed our staff is.
Can't fire you, your phone, yeah.
Does the board have any questions on this item, these issues? I'm going to open the public comment. Although I do not see anyone raising their hands, so I'm going to close public comments. Further review by the board, any discussion? If not, then I would want a motion on the proposal. It's typically ought to pass.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to recommend to the City Council ought to pass on a text amendment to amend the Land Development Code by correcting clerical errors in the dimensional controls that are in attachment 3, Schedule B.
Thank you. Second? Second. Member President, thank you. Roll call vote. Member President?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Rush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Mahar?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, unanimous passage on that item. So that will go to City Council at the next meeting. The next item of code amendments is to amend the land development code by exempting certain uses involving construction or renovation of buildings or uses with 3 or more commercial and residential units from requiring a land development permit. Again, I'd go right back to planning officer Colette.
So we reviewed this at the last meeting, but I know some of you weren't here. This change would look at just items 7 through 10 of the land development permit requirements. It's come up that that those portions of the code require land development permit for renovation of uses with 3 or more residential or commercial units, and also construction or renovation of commercial units. And my theory is that at the time when these were adopted in 2017, they were trying to address the state subdivision statute, but it actually went way above and beyond state subdivision, because that just requires this permit for creating 3 or more dwelling units or converting a commercial or industrial use to 3 or more dwelling units. So, this really creates a burden for more small-scale developers, people who might be just adding one more unit to their building, or they might just be renovating units that were discontinued, and so it can prove a barrier to creating new housing. And then also, as far as the commercial units go, you all will already see land development permits for new construction of commercial units regardless, because they have to do that for any of the commercial zones. They have to come to you for a permit. So that's kind of redundant as far as that goes. And also, it does coincide with the comprehensive plan, which does mention reducing barriers to creating housing. So open to any questions.
Thank you. Any board member questions on this item? I do, but I thought I would let everyone else go first. I don't see anyone else raising their hand though, so I wasn't at the last meeting, so maybe I missed some more discussion on this. I get the intent of it, so I'm not questioning the intent of what we're doing here. I had a hard time with a couple of things here. One is, when I read the words, I didn't see where it was changing things in a sensible way that the average Joe could read and understand what we were trying to say with this code change. I know we are presently sort of outside of what's happening here right now. We're talking to a consultant about rewriting our codes to make them clearer and more readily available for the average Joe. And this seems to be going sort of in the opposite direction. Both in that I can't get my hands on what we're trying to say, but also just like, for example, the new sentence, construction or replacement of, if you read that sentence, there are 10 word or in there. The word or is in there, I believe, 10 times in one sentence. And I'm not picking, I don't know if you wrote that sentence.
No, I actually took this from the state subdivision
Oh my
statute.
goodness, that explains everything.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. 10 words in one sentence? Is that?
That's a run-on sentence.
I mean, seriously. And I just, I have a hard time.
So I did struggle with that, trying to find a way to match, to say what the state subdivision statute was saying, since we had to follow that. And I struggled to try and put it into different words that would still match that. So I just took what they said because I wanted to make absolutely sure that we were following the state law. But I'm certainly open to any suggestions for different.
Yeah, and I'm certainly open to, I mean, my leaning would be towards punting on this one, not voting for or against, but just postponing it until we can figure out how to say what we're trying to say there in a more clear way. Just because I just feel like it's not being clear. That's just my sense. I don't know how much of a need this is in the bigger picture of our coding and our dealing with, you're dealing with these people every day, and we're dealing with every couple of weeks. So I don't know how much waiting matters. But I have a hard time saying yes to this. It's just my opinion of things here. Are you gonna say something?
Yeah, just a thought, since we're trying to, really comply and match with the state's subdivision requirements, which I think we should, but it's a matter of, how do we say it? Maybe just contacting, if there's a person in state government that assists municipalities in their planning functions and say, hey, we want to do the right thing, but the language that I think has been suggested seems to be awkward. And is there a way we can, make it clearer but still be consistent with the state subdivision?
Or maybe the Maine Municipal Association.
That was my other thought.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, they would be.
Yeah, they have attorneys right on staff, and I think we pay dues for that, so.
Okay. So it's my understanding, though, with ordinance changes, it either has to be voted, approved or denied. It can't be modified in the process, right?
Well, we can deny it just to be safe and then change it. I don't know.
We can't
I don't
tell.
know where it even is in the process, though.
So has it already gone to council?
It's gone to council for first reading.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the planning board will make the recommendation to city council for the second reading.
I would think we could also, and I'm not sure this is the right avenue, but I also do think we have the ability to postpone voting on something. If we feel that we need more information or whatever, we can say that and just vote to postpone the vote.
Right, you can do that, and I can verify the procedure for changes.
And I mean, if you come back with the same thing again and say this can't be changed, we're gonna have to vote on it, and we'll decide what to do with it.
Okay.
And if you come back with something better, then obviously it has to go through that same process of going through the city to get kicked to us. And this, I would assume they would just be able to make it go away somehow.
Yeah.
I know that's more work for you, and I apologize for that, but I do know that.
All right.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chair,
remember,
did you get clarification from city staff about whether there was urgency connected to this? Is there a lot of, like, a high volume of these coming across that, like, is it going to complicate things by leaving it an open topic for a period of time?
There's not I wouldn't say a high volume. An issue has come up because of this. It's urgent for that person. But we're not that we're making the change for this one person, it just made sense to make the change. But I don't know how many other people might have been told by code enforcement that they couldn't make a change because of this. I'm not really sure, so.
All right. I was going to say, if the language meets the statute, technically, and it does what's needed for code enforcement purposes, that considering voting on it and approving it if we agree, and then requesting a simplification of language as like a later cleanup, that then but it sounds like I'm just complicating the issue. You guys sounded pretty settled on what you wanted to do there, but just tabling it and giving her an extra 2 weeks to figure out what the story was.
I will note, code enforcement, Brenda and code enforcement and me both look at the state subdivision statute all the time when development does come up. So they are used to interpreting that. And of course, it's up to you all, but like you mentioned, we are going to be doing the land use code rewrite, and we could look at that again. But it's totally up to you what you want to do.
Good.
So.
yeah, I'm Member Boucher, all opinions are good in my way of thinking, and it's up to, I mean, our members have gone and changed their mind before, certainly. I don't want to push this too hard in what I think is right. I'm a little unsure if we vote yes, that it will ever change again, because it's just not that big a priority to make these sorts of changes. There is hope that when we rewrite our codes, we would make it more simple, but if it's a state-driven code, it's not gonna change because you're not gonna let them change, because it's a state-driven code, I would assume.
Yes, but we can, what we would be doing, this subdivision statute, it's something we've struggled with forever when it comes to multi-unit dwellings, and it's definitely on our radar to discuss with the consultant as far as how we can meet that statute, but also make our processes simpler. Mm-hmm. So this will definitely get attention again, but I just don't know what the outcome will be from that. Mm-hmm. But we are definitely, one of the main purposes of the rewrite is to make it simpler and easier to read, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the motion at this point, unless someone else has got something they would like to to bring up, and I'm happy with whichever way you guys wanna go or tackle to go. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we postpone the discussion on the text amendment to amend the land development code by exempting certain uses of construction and renovation buildings to a meeting in, I guess, to the next meeting, in order to see if we could get a revised text, a simpler text on it.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Member Bazinet? And we'll strike the guess, so it would be to the next meeting unless staff gave us new information. So a roll call vote on that, and that is to postpone voting on this item at this time. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Maher?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so unanimous vote to postpone. I will volunteer to go to the meeting on Monday night too, so I can explain this, if that
It
would help.
actually won't even make it to them when it gets postponed.
Okay.
It'll postpone their second reading.
Okay,
So
so
they
I
won't
don't,
see
there
it.
won't be any reason to do that.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Other business we have this evening, we have an update on the comprehensive plan, and so Planning Officer Colette, if you once again will present.
Yeah, so Brian actually created this great document that's in your packets, showing all of the things that have been done so far to implement the comprehensive plan, as well as things that are being worked on or plan to be worked on. We did take this to the bed committee as well, and so I'll just give you the kind of the same rundown, but there's quite a bit of overlap between policies just because there's things that have been implemented that do touch a bunch of different strategies. And one example of those is the land use code rewrite, because so many of the strategies in here refer to zoning and land use changes. So when we do the land use code rewrite, it will be implementing much of the comprehensive plan. Some of the action items that have been taken that have helped a lot have been some of the staffing, hiring changes that have been done in our department, but also other departments too, but mainly we've hired a housing officer, several economic development people, and community development people, and they've all really helped us push things along. Public Works provided a bunch of different strategies, things that they've been doing that was really helpful. They've been doing all kinds of things as far as native plants, forestry planning, reaching out to the youth and things like that. So that's been great. And also just a bunch of stormwater upgrades, floodplain restorations, and community connectors been making a lot of changes as well. So yeah, that just kind of doesn't even touch everything. There's just been a lot happening over the last year. So yeah.
And we said we were gonna do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Check in every once in a while.
Correct.
So that's, yeah, perfect.
And yes, and we will be keeping track of this and updating it as we go along, and we'll give you another review next year as well.
Yep. Excellent. Any questions on that?
It's a really impressive
Member Rush?
document.
One comment. It was quite a weighty document, and I thought it might help, at least in some cases, to add metrics to it. So to have something solid like, a number of housing units added or new bus stops added, and along the line that might even help to have metrics in goal setting. A little more challenging to do that, but anyway, as a reader, I think that would have helped. Some metrics. Look for opportunities to put those in.
Yeah, that actually came up quite a bit when we were doing the comprehensive plan, mainly from one of the counselors at the time. The thing that was difficult was like with housing, for example, we didn't know exactly how many we would need or necessarily even want over the next couple years. We just knew that we needed housing. And we also didn't really know exactly where we were starting at. And that was the purpose of recommending like the housing study, the housing production plan that was in the comprehensive plan, which we're now doing. And that will give us those kinds of metrics.
Right, so as we go along, perhaps those could be, we could find the metrics and add them.
Yeah.
I understand that we didn't start out that way, but in the future it might be helpful.
Right. I will say though, there's a lot of strategies in the plan that you can't really put numbers on, you know, like some of the land use changes and, you know, promoting art and putting a brand out
Yeah, I
there.
agree.
So, but definitely on things that we can put a number on, we can look at doing that in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anya.
Yeah.
Is Member Boucher? did you
Oh, I
have-
was gonna chime in on that too. I did think it was an impressive document. It reminded me a lot of the back end of the comprehensive plan with the not metrics but matrix. You know, the section of like these are our goals. These are the tasks that we've identified as like how we're going to meet them. And I'm not expecting anyone to like recreate that, but I thought that was helpful at showing. You know, these are the 5 things we're doing to hit that, and then these are the boxes we checked, or these are the ones that are in process and are you know moving forward. I did want to understand what body is doing oversight. Is it the city council ultimately?
Actually, you all were the planning committee, the planning
Well, sure,
board.
but I meant operations of it, operational assessment, and like steering, you know, moving forward. Is that still us or?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, staff are the, I mean, we're kind of like the boots on the ground, steering part of it, but the planning board was the official,
Sure.
steering committee, so. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Well, I guess I wonder what we're doing with this information, or if you're looking for any input from us on it, other than just that you guys have made a great deal of progress, and there's so much obviously that's happened in the past year to look back on, moving towards that comprehensive plan.
I don't think, I guess we would be looking for any feedback you might have, you know, that we could look to change anything, like Vice Chair Brush mentioned metrics, but it is mostly just an update. But
Thanks.
Yeah, this is good discussion, I think, guys. I share Member Brush's concern. I have struggled. I watched Director Krieg struggle, I think, in a meeting once when she was pushed to say how many housing units we needed in Bangor. Why can't we answer that question? It seems like an easy answer to get, but it's not. And I started to dig around, and I couldn't find the answer anywhere. And the state has this fascinating study that they've done where they lumped Bangor in with Washington and Aroostook counties, which makes no sense to me at all. And they came up with a number of us being short something like 10 to 11,000 units.
Did they have the word "or" written into the?
And that's the same group.
Description.
That's the same group. And so I wish there was a better number.
Yeah.
And I think Anya's right that the housing study we're gonna have is probably gonna help us get to some kind of a number that we need, but the number will change tomorrow also, is part of the problem. Because the situations are changing constantly in our city. And so what is true today wouldn't be true necessarily next year when we do the review again or whatever. I would also say, kind of getting back to Member Boucher's comment, you know, I know all the departments sort of have responsibility to some of this stuff, and I think probably some of the departments are better at doing this on their own than other departments, let's say. and I'm not implying anything in particular, but I think each one of us, if we read this, and I don't know if you all have read it, but if you haven't, I encourage you to. There are things in here that are important to me. I'll just give you an example because it's one of the things that I've always been so annoying about, and that's when we take a URD1 and we change it to a URD2, one property in the middle of a whole bunch of other URD1s, right? You guys know that's annoying for me. If you look at policy 1 down at the bottom of that section, one of the things that's in there is encourage neighborhood involvement in the process, and that's part of where I get that annoyance from, is I think that's where that needs to come from. But what I'm saying out loud here is, if you have things that are important to you, we're all citizens of the city, and we should remember those and try and bring those into the conversation when the time is right to bring them into the conversation. Because that's how they get brought up again so that changes get made. Would you say?
Yeah.
So, all right, any other comments or thoughts on this? We don't need to vote on this, so we're good to move on. We do need to update, or we need to adopt a notice of decision for 416 Stillwater Avenue. This is something that would be done by those that were at the last meeting. So I would look for a motion on adoption of notice of decision. Member Markart?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would move adoption by the planning board of the notice of decision for 416 Stillwater Avenue, and that's for 416 Stillwater Avenue LLC.
Solicitor Innes,
Yes.
can he make a motion? But he wasn't at the meeting, you weren't at last.
Oh, I wasn't at that meeting?
If he wasn't, then
You weren't at last meeting, were you?
No.
You weren't, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't. So were you?
I believe I was, yeah.
He's not listed as a member present.
Well, let me see in the minutes, maybe I'm,
That's where I looked, I didn't see it.
maybe I wasn't. I don't think
Yeah, this was the one where Jonathan showed up like
I was
one.
not there either, so. I cannot tell you.
I wasn't there. I'll
Pick
step
on me when I'm not there.
This was your,
We'll put the word "or" in that one too.
I don't think
So you cannot make that motion.
No, I cannot make that motion.
Would anyone else other than him? Member Brush, would you like to make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approves the finding decision for 416 Stillwater Avenue that we arrived at on the July 16th meeting,
Thank you.
2024.
Can I have a second on that? Member Bazinet, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
And Member Jones?
Yes.
Unanimous approval of the adoption of 416 Stillwater Avenue notice of decision. Same with the meeting minutes for July 16th meeting. So I would look for a motion, unless somebody has seen changes that they would like or concerns they have with the meeting minutes. I would ask for a motion on approval of those minutes from someone who was at that meeting.
Chair. I
Member
move
Jones.
that the board approve the meeting minutes from the July 16th, 2024 meeting as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Member Bazinet, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And so that unanimously is approved as well. We're at the end of the road for this meeting. Does anyone have any other comments or questions before we call it a night?
Can I ask another scheduling question, because I'm getting ready to leave again? Will we have our meeting then on election day?
We typically have,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, I just want to be sure we're not going to move it, because if we move it, then I have a problem, but if
Okay.
if it's right, where if it's
Yeah,
on election day, it's
I think we've
good.
actually had it on election day in the past, and we've just gone ahead with it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I have, I'm going to my daughter's in North Carolina for her baby shower, so I want, so I wanted to schedule around it,
Okay.
yeah, so thank you.
Yep.
I do need you all to sign the plans and the decision.
We're here this evening, right?
Yes.
And so we need to sign the blueprints, and other